Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to another episode of the Backlog Tackle, my underconsumption use what you have challenge, where I try to use up a variety of things around my house that are just taking up too much space, and I need to buy less of it. And I have been so excited to film this episode because I am on the top of my game right now. I am doing so well. I'm even wearing the medal to prove it. It's a medal from competitive marching band, but it still counts. And we are going to go through all of the various ways that I am doing just super well right now, and the one or two ways not doing super well, but mostly we're winning. All right, okay, let's jump into it. So this might be like the one part where it's like a little bit of a fail, but only like a little bit. Okay, this is my fabric stash. I had actually been making some fantastic progress. I finally made the skirt out of the old bedsheet that I had been talking about for forever. And I am doing a lot of work with Christmas presents. For example, if I can find the one that I put all together, all of my nieces will be getting these play purses. And I have 3 almost finished. Just got a couple more pieces of Velcro and straps to throw on there. And then I also, for Christmas this year, am giving out some lovely book covers, book sleeves, but I am discovering that I really only like small sewing projects, which is just the absolute opposite of my crochet, because when I crochet I want big honking things, but sewing little things. So this is going to be a little bit more to actually get through. It doesn't help that I actually did get a few more large pieces of fabric because there was a local church that had been bought, and to clear out all of the old stuff that had been sitting there for forever, they basically just opened it to the community and said, here, just come in and take whatever. And so my husband needed to grab some things for his drama club, so we were looking through, and I was like, there's just random fabric here, and I knew it was very unlikely that anybody else was going to take it because it wasn't in the clothes closet or whatever. And so I was like, those are kind of Ren Fair like colors, so I do have them, but I did not buy anything. Still, I have a lot, and I am low-key considering, since I have been enjoying making the play purses and the book sleeves, if I want to do something with actually making things to be sold. Probably not on Etsy, because Etsy's doing stuff, but I might look into something like Michael's Makerspace or that kind of thing, just to see, if for no other reason than to just get rid of this with a purpose. But for right now, I also have a couple more skirts that I want to make. I have been making a lot of progress on a patchwork thing, but this is definitely going to be the slowest, because hand sewing is just a lot more slower than crochet. Okay, the calluses only form so fast and my fingers hurt. Up next is the nail polish. Now, I was pretty sure I was going to have an empty to show you for this one, but I thought it was going to be this stupid thing, because I keep knocking over my nail polish remover when I'm removing the nail polish. It's happening constantly, and yet somehow, nope, still some in there. The actual empty I have to show you is this one, actual empty nail polish. You may remember that this is the really cheapo nail polish that I actually decided to not use as nail polish anymore because I hated actually putting it on my nails, but instead used it as art supplies, and discovered that I really like the way cheap nail polish looks as paint, because it's kind of got a mix of acrylics and watercolor, and I like that vibe. I do still have a little bit of the orange right here, only because I don't want to race through this, because I really like using it as accents for candle flames. I think it adds a little bit of extra something. However, I did decide to add 2 more little jars of nail polish to my art stock and take them out of the running for nail polish, because I just don't use these colors. When I paint my nails, I usually do it around the same time that I am prepping my clothes for the next week. So usually on a Sunday evening, and I will usually connect it with that. It will either be, oh, I really want to wear this nail polish, so I'll more or less prep clothing options that go with it, or here's the general vibe of the clothing I'm wearing, what nail polish would fit it the best, as we can see, the vibe. And that means that if I don't really wear that color in clothes, there's not a lot of point to have it in nail polish. And these very 2010s, like I don't know how to explain this, but this specific kind of orangey pink was so common in the 2010s, which I'm pretty sure is where I got at least one of them. It's just not in my wardrobe anymore. I have much more pinky pinks and orangey oranges that fit with my clothing better. And if it doesn't match my clothing, I'm never going to put it on. Although I have realized that I think I like using like actual quality nail polish less as paint than the cheap stuff. It stays tacky longer, and there's a lot more risk of like bleeding through the paper, and also it doesn't have the fun brush strokes. But I think I could learn to enjoy it because of just how dense the color is, and I do like that gleam. It's very nice. But in general, you know, the art supplies nail polish are definitely gonna give out before any of the regular nail polish. Despite the fact that I have been wearing it weekly, I usually remove it on a Saturday morning, let my nails breathe for a couple days, and then Sunday evening is when I put on the next coat. And that's been going really well. I've been also realizing just how often I like to trim my nails. It's basically every other week. I do not like long nails at all. So it's been eye-opening because I would not have considered myself someone obsessed with nail polish, but I have noticed that I'm actually getting better at it. I don't know exactly what I'm doing differently, but I have noticed that the longer I do it, the less chipping I get early in the week. So it is a skill you can learn, and I am surprised by it, but I do like being the nail polish girly that I am now. All right, since we are sitting here in front of the notebooks, let's talk about the notebooks next. I have been doing a little bit of reorganizing and looking through more shelves and cupboards that I didn't get to in the big decluttering of last summer, and I keep finding all of these extra little to-do lists, little note type things, and it's frustrating. Most of these will probably end up either being little sketchbooks or to-do lists, or not even, probably more like grocery lists, to be honest. I'm very particular about how my to-do lists look, but I will eventually get those down, and then most of these I still have no clue what to use for, but the most important thing is to not buy anymore, except I bought one more, but this is actually a win because it was for a good purpose. I had been out in the car with my husband on an out-of-town trip when I was suddenly struck with a writing idea. And not just like, oh, that'd be a cool book, but like, I have to start writing that now, which is a feeling I haven't had in years. And it was to the extent that I was literally trying to like handwrite on this tiny notebook I brought with me for another purpose in a moving car. I wanted to write that bad. So once my husband had to go off to a meeting for something else, I literally found the nearest thrift store, got this for $1, found the nearest cafe, sat camped out, and just wrote until my hands gave out. It was that intense. And then I kept writing. Like, this thing is already, how full are we here? This full already. All that handwriting. So the bitch is back. The spark is here, and I am excited to continue writing this one. I do believe it could eventually be something published, although I'm not like racing to it for that extent right now because I've already got all these other things getting queried, and like, we don't need to race through this one. I'm just happy to have it and have something to look forward to. And once I fill this entire thing, which will not be the whole story, obviously, not in something this tiny handwriting. Once I have that, then I will go back and type up what I have, flesh it out, because I am a notorious underwriter, and then continue it from there and complete it and hopefully have something else I could shop around. Because, and I debated whether or not to say anything, one of the indie presses I queried did request the full manuscript. So it's going to be a long wait because the story they requested is over 100,000 words, but I am keeping my expectations fairly level. I have had fulls requested before just to be told that my work would be very hard to market. Apparently I am slightly odd, who would have thunk? So just the fact that I am back in the game getting full requests, and I am especially back in the game getting obsessed with writing, that's enough of a win for me for right now. I don't need to be, published next year or whatever. Just being back, as the annoying writer girl that I have always been since I was 10 is enough for me. And the last thing we'll talk about in this portion of the office are coloring books. I haven't been doing it quite as much, mostly because my hands have been hurting from all of the sewing and crochet and handwriting. But I did discover in that more niche decluttering I've been doing this coloring book that I thought I'd lost, and I was bummed because it's actually one of the few coloring books that I bought new. I bought it at an indie bookstore, and it's from like a small-time artist, so I was really happy to, you know, support local that way. But also, I just love the actual pictures because it's all goblins doing like interesting things, and like just the vibe is so much fun. And most importantly, it's wide enough and floppy enough that I can just pop this on a table and it lays flat so I can color in it rather than having to pull out the pages, although they are what is it called? Serrated? No, not serrated. Whatever, you know what I mean. The one where you can easily tear out the pages. So I am happy to have this one back. I will continue to color it. It is probably one of the only ones that I would try to color like front to back. Some of the other coloring books, there's ones that I'm just not interested in. I did finally get all the way through the coloring book that I was basically cutting apart for compost. I had to start a new compost because our garden kind of went kaput after several days of storms. So I have a lot of compost now and not a lot to do with it, but regardless, the coloring is probably going to slow down a little bit, at least until probably winter and all of the indoor time starts. Coloring would probably be pretty good then. For our finale, verily doth I bring you to the poorly lit scene of my greatest triumph, the yarn stash. This has been the most to work with, and I have made the most progress on it. I have some of the biggest empties to show you when it comes to this. This laundry basket, all empty. This basket I have shown before, all empty of yarn, and now it has sewing stuff. And most importantly, this giant old comforter bag, empty. You will remember at the beginning of this project, all three of those were overflowing with random skeins of yarn that were getting all tangled. I barely even knew what was in most of them. It was a whole thing. But my end goal was always to have a system where new skeins of yarn would come in to here until they were earmarked for a project. Then they would move into some kind of container so that when I wanted to work on that project, I could just pick up the box, the bag, and work on it. And then the scraps would end up in a little shoebox. And I'm there, basically. I would like to start tackling through a little bit more of my projects just so that I don't have quite as many boxes of whips around. But I did complete my Goliath of a project, the book cover blanket. This is a blanket made up of colors from books that I've read for, was it a year? About a year, more or less. This was cursed for the longest time because I felt like I couldn't use the yarn for anything else, just in case I ended up reading a book with that color on the cover. And to show how much this thing really was holding me back, the second I had it finished, woven the ends, tossed it in the wash, I immediately started and have already finished, a whole other skirt. This is my scrap skirt, and it still does need to be washed. It's a little bit stiff, but I already have it finished. I already started another skirt because I love me a crocheted skirt. In winter, it's like wearing a blanket. And so that's part of the reason that I've been having so much luck with the crochet, is just because now I feel free to do a lot of it. And in general, I could stop here. I thought about it for a second, but then I was like looking through the actual skeins in here. I'm like, there's still a lot of skeins I don't really care about. Skeins that I'm just going to throw on a blanket to donate somewhere or turn into hats and gloves to put in the little free library that just need to go somewhere else. And so I realized to myself, do I even need enough yarn to fill this whole thing? What if I decided to stash down my yarn collection so much that I could fit both my yarn and my fabric in this singular dresser? That is the new goal. which honestly has as much to do with sewing as it does crochet. But I am going to start essentially trying to clear out drawers in here. And then as I clear them out, I will start moving in more fabric, with the end goal being that both stashes in their entirety will be able to fit in here. I actually do want to use my fabric stash for yarn storage to essentially make color-coded bags that different skeins can go in, because I really only need 2 to 3 of each different color. There is going to be a new yarn store opening in our area, a locally owned yarn store. I've actually already gotten to speak to the owner a couple times. And you would think that that would make me panic about, oh no, what if I end up spending a lot? But in all honesty, it's actually kind of reassuring, because now that I don't have to wholly rely on secondhand stores, I feel the urge to use it sparingly, because I know that I have it there now. I am going to get still most of my stock from secondhand when possible, but if I need a specific color to finish out a project, that is what I'm going to use the yarn store for. That way I am not trying to buy a giant bag of stuff to get a singular color. We will only be buying the bags if we have a significant room space in here and I like all the colors in it. And hopefully that should help my yarn collection from ever exploding again. But in general, I am just amazed by this room now, despite, again, not incredibly well lit, but it is a room that felt off limits for a large portion of the time I've lived in this house. First because of roommates, then because of fostering, then because of the emotional trauma from the fallout of fostering, and then because it just became the room we shoved a bunch of stuff into. So reclaiming this room as a place I actually want to spend time in the little reading corner in the corner in is a victory in itself. And I could get pretty emotional about that. It's a whole thing, but that's kind of the whole point of this, right? To reclaim your stuff, to stop letting the stuff run your life. And I'm very proud of myself. I think I am well on my way. Not in every way. Again, we got to do more sewing. But for the most part, I think I'm winning. And that is it. All of the ways in which I am really just taking control of my things again and using up what I have and hopefully clearing up more space to just exist in my house. It will likely be a while before the next episode of this, just because a lot of the stuff I'm working with is just slow to work through. It's not as exciting as like a project pan to actually do a month by month. But if you are interested in that and the other readerly things going on, please feel free to subscribe. If you are doing any kind of project pan, stash down, or any other kind of underconsumption challenge, please let me know. I would love to hear about that down in the comments below. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.